Well, good morning, everybody. We are here with Katherine French for our fellowship moment. And I know I've met you a couple of times, but I don't know a whole lot about you. And I can't wait to hear more about who you are and how you are. So Thank you for doing this interview today.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about when you joined UCC and why you joined it.
Okay, well, my first time at UCC was our wedding.
Oh my goodness.
Reverend Mitchell married us, and basically because I couldn't find any other church. So after we got married, then we lived in Sioux Falls, and in 1975 we came back to the Yankton area, and it was very important for us to have a church to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to go back to the UCC. And so we were a member all the time,
Yeah.
and I've been a member since then,
So,
except for when I was in Texas. I was still communicated with the church and stuff, but I never could find a fit in Texas. So when I moved back here 4 years, after 4 years, I decided, well, I'm going back to my family,
yes,
which is
agreed.
how I feel about UCs.
Yeah. So, since you got married there and that was your first time there, how'd you meet your husband?
I don't know if I should say this on tape. We met at a bar, and he was driving truck and semi cross country, and I went over and said hello to him because we were both sitting by ourselves, and sort of the rest is history.
My goodness.
So 2 days later, on which was Valentine's Day, we had a date, and he showed up with a dozen red roses and took me out to supper. And
Was that here in Yankton?
no, in Sioux Falls.
In Sioux Falls. So you had a lot more restaurants to choose from.
So that's how we met.
That's awesome. I love those stories. So then you lived in Sioux Falls then?
We lived in Sioux Falls till 75, and then our apartment was just a real small apartment, but the landlord came up on Thanksgiving and said they were upping our rent, and it was going to be like 3 times what we were paying.
Oh my goodness.
And so my husband says, I don't think so. When do we have to be out? And he said 1st of December. And so we came to Yankton and had no furniture, so we didn't have anything much to pack up. And we lived with my brother and his wife for a short time because we thought we had a house, and it ended up that we didn't have it. They backed out. So we lived with my brother and sister-in-law, and so till we could find something else, and we ended up buying a house in Utica. I don't know if you know where that's at.
I haven't been there yet, but I know 2 people that lived in Utica now. So
Okay.
it's a popular place.
So we lived in Utica for like 30-some years.
Oh my.
And then when my husband's health got bad, then we moved to Carriage House Apartments.
Okay.
And then after he passed away, then I was going back and forth to Texas a lot anyway. So my daughter here said, why don't you just move to Texas and be with Melanie? That's my other daughter. So that's what I did. 2 weeks before Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, golly. So you moved in the middle of winter, your
No.
first time. No, your first time when you came here. You had to be out right before Christmas or December 1st. And then you moved down to Texas, and there's Hurricane Harvey.
Hurricane Harvey.
And you survived it all.
Yep.
And that's awesome.
It was scary, but
I bet.
The unknown is always scary.
It is.
But it was a good choice. I was sitting in my apartment right before the hurricane, and there was a couple cardinals that came and sat outside my window on my bird feeder, and I texted my daughter and I says, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Aw.
Because
Yeah.
Freeman and Destiny are here visiting me.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's good. I have other friends that have cardinals as their sign of, safety, and
yeah,
it makes you feel good.
right.
It really does. So if you could talk to yourself now when you were 20, what would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself that I should change my thinking of what I wanted to do in life and become a teacher.
Ah, so what did you do in life?
I went to school for 3 years to become a nurse. And then I found out that I wasn't good at that. Well, I shouldn't say I wasn't good. Maybe I was too good
Uh-huh.
because I couldn't leave my patients in the hospital. I took them home with me
Okay.
and thought about them all the time and dreamt about them and stuff. And so it just was not healthy for me to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But it started before even that. My first job was working at Sister James Nursing Home.
Okay.
And I was 13.
Oh, wow.
And so I worked after school and weekends at Sister James Nursing Home. And even then, I was not, I should have, looking back at it, I guess I should have known that that was not a good thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I can still tell you some of the names of my patients.
Sure.
And stuff.
Me too.
And so, just wasn't. So then when I met my husband, he didn't want me to work anyway. So then I quit my job and I stayed at home
Yeah.
until my youngest daughter was 4 when I went to work.
And what did you do then?
I went to work for the school in the kitchen, and I did about everything. But I ended up being a baker,
Oh, good.
and I made the bread and everything. And the biggest joke was people would say, got the best buns in town.
Ah!
So I hear that every once in a while, somebody that we did a lot of catering and stuff, and they would say to me, I still think you got the best buns in town.
I love it.
So, but I did that for 33 years,
Wow.
and that's where I retired.
My first job was working with the school lunch ladies, helping serve meals when I was in middle school. And I'll tell you what, you all taught me well about keeping clean and organized and all of that stuff. So thank you for doing that, because even though you weren't a teacher, you were a teacher. So,
Yeah,
and I think you would have probably remembered your students' names too.
probably.
Yeah. Yep. So you grew up in,
I grew up in Yankton,
okay.
and I was born here, raised here. I lived down by Lincoln School,
Okay.
and I walked to school every day. And then, I went to school in Lincoln, at Lincoln School, but I also went 1 year at Sacred Heart School and Model School, which was up at Mount Marty.
Oh, okay.
And so went there 1 year.
And what kind of school was model
So-
school?
It was a Catholic school.
Okay,
But it
okay.
was very, very small. There was only like 5 or 6 in a
Oh,
classroom.
wow.
My brother was having problems in school, and they thought he would get more attention up there. And
Okay.
maybe,
Okay.
so,
So you were kind of his safety net there,
Yeah.
going there too. So what did you enjoy doing in school? What were your subjects you really enjoyed?
I really enjoyed math.
Wow.
Yeah. I took all the math courses I could take. And so if I would have been a teacher, that's probably what I would have.
Oh,
wanted to
neat.
do.
Neat. I stunk at math. It was my worst subject ever. So, but I wish I would have taken more history and that kind of stuff because I really enjoy that. But
I wasn't a history buff.
we all have our stuff, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So, do you remember much about your grandparents?
In fact, I was just thinking about that the other day. Somebody asked me, thought we were related and wanted to know how. And so anyway, my grandmother and grandfather on my mom's side, I remember quite well. And growing up, they had my grandfather's mother live with them,
Okay.
and she was completely blind.
Oh, wow.
And I can remember going and sitting in her room watching her, and she had a rocking chair, and she rocked back and forth, and she crocheted with thread
Oh, wow.
and made doilies, and it just amazed me how she could do that without being able to see and not having a pattern, and she just kept crocheting away, rocking and stuff. And so I remember that it was her name was Anna.
Oh, wow.
And then they also had his brother living with them. And so I never really got to know. He was pretty much a loner. He had been in one of the wars and stuff, and he sort of stayed in his room all the time. So I didn't know him very well.
What did your grandparents do?
My grandmother raised chickens. I know that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, it's funny, I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
I would imagine they farmed because they lived on a farm.
Okay.
But I know my grandmother raised chickens. She was always going out collecting eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then my grandparents on my dad's side, I was only like 10 when they passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember them very well.
Yeah.
I remember us going out to their house a couple, 3 times and stuff. But,
Yeah.
you know,
What about your parents? What did they do?
my dad was a mechanic. He had his own garage right by the house.
Okay.
And he fixed everything from tractors to lawnmowers. And us kids all took turns learning about repairing things.
That's great.
I mean, I was first. I'm the oldest of 11.
What?
So yeah. So I could hand my dad any tool that he wanted. I knew them all and stuff. And then when my brother got old enough, then he went into the garage. And my oldest brother, he is still very mechanically
Oh, cool.
inclined. And so, I forgot the question.
Your parents, what they did.
Oh, and my mom, she was pretty much a stay-at-home mom
I would think with 11
until,
kids.
oh, well, when she retired out of the state hospital,
Oh,
I
okay.
think she had retired with 20 years. But
Wow.
she worked nights so that she could be up with us kids during the day or be home with
Amazing.
us.
Amazing what parents do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you do any sports or activities in high school?
No,
No,
I
you
was too
were.
busy working.
Yeah, you were taking care of everybody, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I was always in charge when she had to go to the hospital to have a baby.
Another child.
Yeah, to have another child. I was cook and cleaner and everything.
Chief
so,
cook and bottle washer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you go to college
I
at all?
went 2 years at Sacred Heart on Mount Marty,
Okay.
and then I went 1 year in Sioux Falls at the Sioux Valley School of Nursing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I figured you have to get your
Yeah.
degree somewhere for
So
nursing.
I didn't get a degree. I never finished that. I just decided that I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I get it.
But then I couldn't find a job because the only thing I ever had any experience with was in the nursing field.
Uh-huh.
So that's pretty much where I
Yeah.
worked.
But Sacred Heart was blessed by you, I'm sure. Yep. So you've already talked about some pretty surprising things. Is there anything else that most people don't know about you? Besides that you have the best buns in town?
Probably the one thing that nobody would guess is I also went to school to become a truck driver.
What?
Yeah, that was my husband and my plan when we got married, was that I was going to go out on the semi with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to school. They had a schooling that you went to.
Right.
And that was the plan was that I was going to drive truck with him. And then I found out I was pregnant, so that sort of threw a loop in that one. So went one trip and that was it.
Well, you know what? At least you got to do it once, right?
Yep.
Okay, so something in your life that changed you.
It's a sad thing, but I think I would say the death of my granddaughter and my husband. I had to learn that I can do things by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I may not like it, but the hardest thing was to go out and eat someplace.
Oh, I bet.
I can tell a little story about that. My husband and I did quite a bit of traveling, and we loved Red Lobster. Just loved it. And in fact, we took a trip to Florida, and we planned our route by Red Lobsters.
Good idea.
So we had maybe only had one meal a day, but it was at Red Lobster, and on the way down and on the way back. So when he died, one day I was in Sioux Falls and I was so hungry for Red Lobster, and I sat out in the parking lot for almost 45 minutes before I got up the courage to go in and have Red Lobster. And I think the waitress sort of knew that I was having a problem, because she sort of sat me out of the way of people, so I wasn't sitting in the middle of a room and all these people around me. And I ordered my food, and then she came and sat with me. And I sort of told her about our trip to Florida and Red Lobster and stuff, and then she left, and had finished my meal, and I was waiting for my ticket so I could leave, and didn't come, it didn't come, it didn't come. Finally, this manager came over, and I said, I'm waiting for my ticket so I can leave. And he says, you don't owe us anything.
Aw.
He says, the waitress told me your story, and he says, I am just so happy you came.
Aw.
And stuff, and so I had money for a tip, and he says, no, she don't want a tip. She's just so happy that she could meet you and stuff. And he says, I hope you come again.
Oh.
So that is sort of my hardest thing, is to go eat by myself. And of course, you can't always call your kids or call somebody and say, will you go eat with me?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I don't do it very often, but I still do it once in a while. And then I lost my granddaughter. She was only 18. And so it just sort of does something to you when you have to bury a child.
Yes.
And I think that's changed me a lot. You know, I just know she wasn't perfect. My daughters say, oh, you think she was perfect? No, I don't think she was perfect, but she was still so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And she was always seemed to be happy and stuff. And that,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I bet it made you even more of a person that realizes how important each moment
Yeah.
is.
You know, I've learned that you don't take things for granted,
Right.
because you don't know when you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
And the hardest part was I lost my mom in June of 2010, right before my daughter got married. And then I lost my husband in 2011, almost a year late, little over a year later. And then I lost my granddaughter in 2013. Well, because of somebody at church, I went to a grieving group right after Freeman died. And my kids didn't want me to talk about him. And I needed to talk. And so that group really helped.
Good.
And I found out that I hadn't grieved for my mother, because I hadn't had time.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after Destiny died, then I went to another grieving group to get through that one. But that really was changing of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it would be. But it sounds like letting people know that grief is normal and going to a grieving group is normal and helpful. And I bet you could help people with their process of grieving too.
Yeah, you know, and I learned that when you go to a funeral and you talk to people, you don't say, oh, I know what you're thinking, or I understand, because you don't. Nobody understands what you're going through, because we all grieve differently, and we all process things differently. And so the best thing you can do is put your arm around them, give them a hug, and just let it at that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to say something to the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sometimes a hug is the best thing you can give somebody.
Yeah.
For happy occasions, for sad
Yeah.
occasions, and just to say,
Yeah, I'm a hugger.
yep, me too.
I have taught many people that they have to hug me or they're.
So COVID was really hard for you.
Yes, that was hard
Yeah,
because you don't hug anybody during COVID.
right.
I mean, it's still a lot of people
Uh-huh.
are scared of it and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? Life goes on, and yes, COVID's out there, but we still have to live. We still have to love each other and stuff. And I guess I just don't try not to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Just be careful.
Yeah,
Be careful and thoughtful and live your life.
you know, and if people don't want to be touched, you have to accept that and understand that.
Yeah. So your grandson is here with you today.
Yeah.
And he seems like just a sweetheart. What do you want to tell your grandkids? What do you want them to remember or know? Something that's important.
Think. I want them to know that they have to always be considerate and be loving to everybody. I think one thing that I was taught when I was many years ago, when I was going to Catholic school and I went to a mass, the priest came up to give the sermon and he says, "You don't have to like anybody, but you have to love everybody." And that has always stuck in my mind. And I probably was only 7 or 8 years old. I mean, it was a long time ago. And I think I want my kids to know that too. You don't have to like anybody, but you have to love everybody. And, you know, we all have things about us that people are not going to like. I mean, you might not like the color of their skin or the color of their hair or piercings or whatever, but you still have to love them because they are God's creatures. And so I think that's the main thing I want my kids to understand.
Yeah. And that you love them too.
Oh, definitely. I love them all. Even if they don't believe it sometimes.
Tell
I
them.
still-
Tell them right now.
I love you all. And, you know, I just wish they would be out there and go to church more and know that they've got a family other than their real family.
Yeah. Church family is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's important. So, well, thank you for sharing yourself with us today. I know that I've learned a lot, and I'm going to be looking for those buns, girl.
I don't make buns no more. Unfortunately, I don't have I need a big mixer or, you know, more than.
Yep.
My kids are always talking about, why don't you make us some caramel rolls or whatever,
Ooh.
and stuff. You know, when you don't have the equipment, you
Yep.
don't have the equipment
Yep.
and stuff.
Well, we're all missing out. But thank you,
You're welcome.
and I appreciate it.